You're listening to Energy Amplified. I'm your host, Marlisa McLaughlin, on greeninkradio.com. Thanks for joining me. Welcome to Episode 8, The Energy of the Tarot on Energy Amplified. I'm Marlisa. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to have a very interesting show, and before we start and I introduce my guest, I just want to set the premise that we're going to think about this as a basic principle of all matter is energy, either flowing or congealed, perceived that way. So either the energy flows like a light wave or a sound wave, or it's congealed like solid matter, like a chair that you think you're sitting in. You actually are, but it's not solid. There's a lot of space in between all these particles. So just to basically build a concept about how energy interacts, different frequencies interact with one another. So that being said, I'd like to invite my guest and tell you a little bit about her first. It's Marlisa Kat, and she's been a tarot card reader for over 25 years, and she deals with the tarot from a therapeutic self-empowerment perspective. Her approach to tarot combines her study with tarot with an interdisciplinary bachelor's degree in history, psychology, and English, and a master's degree in sociology to yield truly informed and insightful readings and discussions. Marlisa Kat views tarot cards as a resource for practical guidance to help uncover answers and create positive change. Kat hosts the Tarot Talk podcast on Green Ink Radio, where she performs live readings and provides tips on and insight into interpretation and application of tarot to real-life situations. This show is for beginner to advanced level card readers and non-readers alike. So welcome, Kat.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you.
This is very exciting to have some time together to just talk about what's really going on when the cards are going on. So I think it'd be interesting first to ask you about how you began your interrelationship with the tarot card deck, or cards in general. Maybe it wasn't a tarot card deck.
Yeah, so I grew up hearing stories, or the story, about my great-grandmother, who was a tea leaf reader. And this was back in the day when nobody even heard of tarot cards, really, probably. But she read tea leaves for the whole neighborhood. She was well known for it. Everybody went to her.
Now, which town was that in?
Oh, good question.
The United States?
It's in the U.S., yeah. So it would have been somewhere New York, like Pearl River or Hoboken. No, those are New Jersey, but that New York metropolitan area.
Gotcha. So a lot of immigration. So the tea leaves we don't commonly hear about in the United States, unless they're coming from, quote unquote, the old country.
Yes. So that was her thing. And even though she was very Catholic, she did continue this practice and actually did readings for the church when they wanted to raise money. Like, she would do it for their little festivals, their ice cream social festivals, and help raise money for the church. So I guess that made it okay, because I feel like she had to reconcile or justify those two parts of herself.
And did she talk with you about that?
My great-grandmother died when I was very young, but I do remember she did live with us for a little while when she was toward the end of her life, I guess. I really only remember her sitting in the big easy chair and not going to dinner with us. I don't know why, it's weird. But yeah, so I never really had a discussion with her. But I did actually, my grandmother had her tarot cards, which didn't even know she had tarot cards. The whole story was that she read tea leaves. So I was with my grandmother at some point when she was going through some old stuff, and she was like, "Oh, these are Granny's cards." And I was like, "What? I want those." So I got them. But I was already on my tarot journey. I was always, as a child, interested in esoteric arts and practices and mysteries. So I was interested in astrology and tarot and what was called ESP at the time, which is just basically called psychic phenomena or whatever at this point. Numerology, palm reading, anything that was out of the ordinary everyday way of perceiving the world and looking at today and the past and the future I was interested in.
So when you first were able to hold on to that deck from your great-grandmother, do you recall any certain feelings that you had or thoughts that might have just come up?
Not really, just that I never knew she had cards, and how random, really, that they came to me, because I have 35 cousins. I don't even know how many. And there wasn't a lot of anything to hand down to grandchildren. And I didn't see my grandmother a lot. So how I even got this deck, I still don't know. I think it was divine intervention, because I hadn't seen my grandmother in years. I happened to be there. She happened to be going through stuff. You know what else she had? She had the hair bob. My great-grandmother had at some point bobbed her hair. Wow. And she had the tail. And it was all coiled up in a box. And she was like, I have Granny's hair. I don't know what to do with it. And I just looked at it. And I wanted that too. But I felt weird about asking for it. Oh my God, I wanted it so bad. And I want to tell you, it looked exactly like my sister Erin's hair. Exactly.
Wow.
The same color, texture. It was, wow. Yeah.
Well, that's also a tradition anyway, going back throughout the ages with hair and keeping things in hair art, or when they didn't actually have materials. Like in the old Icelandic villages, they would have hair art.
No kidding.
So they would actually use human hair and animal hair. And, there are just lots. I just remember with all of my travels across the globe, seeing a lot of hair being used and kept and preserved.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. Well, we keep baby teeth, don't we?
Right.
You know,
right.
What are we
I
doing?
do have a little sack full of my daughter's baby teeth. She'll probably hate it and be so grossed out by it, but whatever.
So,
okay.
But moving along, I don't want to lose track of the tarot, because that's a fascinating beginning for you to where you are now today. And I have to say, folks, Kat's show is great, and I just love it, and so does everyone else who listens to it. And there are people who are new coming into it that have this incredible spark, and it moves them further and deeper into it. They're inspired. And also those who have been practicing tarot or card reading is not necessarily just a traditional tarot deck. Because I learned that from you, actually, years and years ago. But when I look at cards, they're not a traditional deck, but everything's applicable. And I love the way you weave and blend all of those qualities you just talked about that brought you through the ages.
Yeah, I can't help myself.
Yeah, thank God.
I love to talk about all different things, and they're all related because it's all energy, right?
Yes. And that brings us right back around again to what we have here. We thought it would be fun to demonstrate how energy works. We might not be able to make any sense of it.
It's highly experimental, but we're up for this experiment.
We're so up for it. So we have 5 different decks sitting here on the table, and we were thinking, since we're talking about energy and we're in the unified field that we all live in, everything is electromagnetically connected. Electromagnetically. I said that right, didn't I?
More or less.
The headphones on, so it makes everything sound weird at certain times. So things are acting, just think about the concept of magnets and polarities, and that and certain frequencies will draw together. So if there's a certain frequency about, there might be a certain combined unity in what we see in the cards.
And we have very different decks here.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the the traditional tarot deck and how everything's sort of built off that before we pull some cards and see what they might tell us.
So a traditional deck has 4 suits, much like a deck of playing cards, and it also has court cards as part of the suits. So it goes ace to 10, and then it has your jack, queen, king type court cards, but there's 4 of them. Traditionally, 2 are male, 2 are female, and then there is a whole set called the Major Arcana that's not in a deck of playing cards, that is in a traditional deck, to give 78 cards total. The Major Arcana are not tied to any suit, so they're just concepts, like big concepts, like the world or death, or...
And when you say death, it can be the death of an idea.
Yeah,
or the ending of a cycle. We're not talking that something...
Yeah, death is renewal. It's shedding an old skin. It's transformation.
Yes,
it's not dying dead. It's the passing of something to allow something else to emerge.
Very good. Now, and people actually have used just traditional, regular playing card decks as tarot decks.
Yes, which is interesting. And actually, the deck I have from my great-grandmother has little tiny representations of playing cards up in a corner. So the card itself might be something like, and they're old cards, so it's really just a riot to look at them. It's like a dark-haired man, and then up in the corner will be like King of Spades or something. So it's so weird, but yeah, and people can still do that. There are people who can use regular playing cards as divinatory tools, so that's cool. But anyway, that is the traditional structure of a tarot card deck. Now, like you said, there's been all kinds of branching out, and there's all different kinds of decks now. Some adhere to that basic structure, some vary a little bit, and some just go way off. And then there's also something called oracle cards that really don't seem to have any structure at all, or their structures are so varied that I couldn't generalize in any way. And those are interesting, but they're not like traditional tarot. They're more conceptual.
Okay. Is it safe to say that there's a shared intention no matter what type of deck you're using?
Between the reader and the readee.
And the outcome being a byproduct of the energy shared between two people through the story that's being told in the cards, which are chosen by...
Usually the person who wants the reading will shuffle the cards or choose some cards, and the way I look at it, when a person is shuffling the cards, they're putting them in a certain order, and you're not aware of this. It's an energetic thing.
That's why we're talking Energy Amplified about this. I just love that. I want to just take a moment and go back to a story 30 years ago.
Okay.
Almost 30 years ago. When you were teaching me for the very first time, and I had gone out and gotten the deck that you had, the Aquarian Tarot, which is on the table, but we're not going to use that one.
We didn't use it.
In our experiment. We decided not to. I don't know why. I think because we had so many beautiful...
because you were drawn to the Goddess deck. So I pulled that one
tonight.
Yeah.
So just for fun, one night we were shuffling our deck, each our own decks, and we said, "Hey, let's just flip the cards one after the other, one against the other."
Kind of like playing war, but we weren't being warlike about it. We were just seeing what when I turned over and what when she turned over.
Right. And how many in a row were exactly the same card? 52?
So
no, 70,
amazing.
78?
There's 78 cards, and they're in random order when you own them. Most people don't keep them in a certain order, as far as I know. And we had shuffled them as well, each individually, independently.
Because we were chatting and just shuffling and chatting.
Shuffling away.
And then boom, 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 boom. I think there must have been
amazing.
At least 11 in a row that were exactly the same.
Mind-blowing. I know. I
don't even think we thought beyond that, because it was just merely enough to witness that these things happen. And they're beyond coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence anyway, but it's just a profound witnessing to how energy works and how wonderful it can be, and how you can share that and create something fresh and new.
Yes, I love the way you put that. A profound illustration of the way energy works.
It really is. So why don't we jump into our experiment? So
hopefully we have something profound here.
This is going to be like really profound or so stupid that we'll all have at least get a good laugh at it. Kat and I are each going to take one of these decks. Which one? I have Carol and Mrs. Archetype cards.
Carol and Mace.
Mace's
archetype cards.
Cards.
We're shuffling.
Okay, and you have?
I have Amy Brown's Fairy Wisdom deck. This is kind of like an oracle deck, and so is the Carolyn Mace deck.
And the size of the cards vary too. Some of them are easy to shuffle. Some of them are impossible for some of us to shuffle.
Yeah, those cards are really big, and it's a huge deck.
And for good reason. I've been a follower of Carolyn's work since she came out first.
I know. Really brilliant woman and scholar and writer, coach, and all of that.
That was 2 decks down. Now we're each taking another.
I have the Tarot de Saint Croix.
And I have the Goddess deck. Look at that. I wanted it, and I didn't even know what it looked like on the inside. They're very pretty.
So both of us have a traditional deck here. here.
And do you feel like the back artwork on cards influence the pull of the cards in the layout? Have you ever thought about that?
I haven't thought about. I have been drawn or not drawn to the back of a deck, but I've never thought about how they may influence the cards. It's more, what I think is it sort of reflects the overall energy of the cards.
And if the back energy is all the same, then the front energy is going to be the pull anyway.
Yeah.
So that will stand out. That makes sense. I have the Osho Zen Tarot, which is not, well, it's kind of traditional, actually.
It's structured traditionally in that it has suits, right?
Yes.
And does it do like
it has major arcana.
And it has major arcana.
Yeah, it does.
Does it do numbers like 1 through something?
Yes.
Okay, but it doesn't have court cards, right?
In a way.
Okay.
By color. The
color is the suit, though, yeah?
Do they have? They do, and believe it or not, I'm having a blank out here.
Oh, that's okay.
So I'm going to do 2 shuffles and hand this to you so that you can do 2, since it's the middle of the road deck.
Okay.
And it was just because it was literally in the middle of the line in between us. We didn't choose what was
randomly was there.
So we'll do that.
So 2.
And then I'm going to propose that we maybe just decide together on an intention. Like, what would we like to pull a card, hoping to draw our energy from the card in?
So our intention for what we want to get out of this or see, or?
Yeah. Well, I think that our intentions simply are that we are going to randomly draw the cards, just 1 from each deck, with the intention of exploring the layout on energetic terms so that it will tell us something fun and exciting that we would like to know on our show right now. That if you're listening out there, you're going to be tickled somehow by this, and possibly it will change your entire existence.
It has the potential.
How about that?
Yes.
We'll keep it simple.
Okay.
You go first.
Right. So we're just pulling the top card?
What do you think? This is really experimental.
Yeah, we're totally,
Okay, we're going to start our experiment here, experiential tarot game that we just made up. We're not doing an actual reading. We're just looking for commonalities, if we can find any, by just randomly picking 1 card from each of these decks. Kat's over there already actively selecting.
Yes, I'm looking at the Fairy Wisdom deck.
And her technique for choosing is to fan out and using her physical, energetic connection with the cards to see what draws her to some. I'm doing the same with the Carolyn Mace archetypes. Got one. She's got one. We're not looking at these cards.
Right. Not until we tell you.
Right. We won't cheat, so it's fun for all of us. I'm going to take the Goddess deck.
And I have the Tarot de Saint Croix.
I'm going to use a different technique for selecting, and I'm just going to shuffle and then randomly just allowing my energy to... Oh, see, when that happens, I stop.
Ooh, you got a jumper.
I have a jumper. I'm not looking. Boy, was that tempting. I almost just naturally flipped it right over.
Oh.
Okay, you do the honors of the Osho.
Why, thank you.
So there's one particular deck that I've used, the Maya deck. I'm sure you can use it anyway, but the way it was created was very, very specific. And there's a very specific way to shuffle and a very specific way to choose.
And of all the varied decks I've seen, that has to be the most unusual, the most out-of-the-box deck.
And so complex.
Yes.
It requires an enormous amount of energy to connect with it and to understand, but what it yields is profound.
Pretty profound, yeah. Powerful.
Really.
Yeah.
Gives you like an inner map when you write things out. You can actually use it as it's almost like a game board too.
Right. Yes. So it's just intricate, complex, and powerful.
And therefore
very cool.
There's no room for random in that because it's so specific. That's probably why you created that. But we have plenty of room for random. We have 5 random cards.
Different decks. Totally different, like oracles and fairies and archetypes and Zen. And so let's see what we have here.
It's either going to be a gourmet meal Or you know when you think you got something really good, you're experimenting in the kitchen and you can't wait to taste it, and it's like wop wop wop.
Might be like that.
Let's see what we have.
Okay, so fairy wisdom is what a pretty card, Moon Dragon.
Interesting. And for the archetypes, poet. Moon dragon and poetry.
Love it.
Yep,
they
one.
both access the subconscious. I mean, I don't know what moon dragon means. I'd have to look in the book. But I'm getting subconscious both from poetry and moon dragon.
Very
How about you?
Well, my first thought I took literally that here's the poet card, and you don't get any more poetic than putting moon and dragon together.
Oh, yes.
It's really beautiful.
Yes.
Now let's see what the goddess has to say about this. So I have, and you'll have to tell me what this means, 6 of Cups.
And is that the jumper card?
Yes, it was.
6 of Cups. Well, what's your impression?
I'm looking at this. I see beautiful urns with full with beautiful flowers. And I would just say, emotional abundance, vitality. Just this looks like a very fulfilled state of being.
Yes, and 6 of Cups generally refers to children or childhood, of being light and playful, returning to the past or returning to childhood. So that card, the images on that card don't really work with that at all. So we might look at the little booklet and see what they have to say. But your interpretation is just as legitimate as what the book says, too.
And how do you feel as though that blends in with where we're going with this, the poetry of the moon dragon, and in the childhood way, playful,
the light playfulness? I liked that, and the accessing of
the subconscious,
in a freer, more open way of being, rather than a more regulated, controlled, adulting way of being.
Right.
So that makes sense to me.
So while you're checking on that in the book, I will flip over the Osho card.
Oh, it says harmonious home, children and childhood memories, longing for sweetness and innocence of the past, for 6 of Cups. So I guess I can see that, because it does look like, a well-established home with abundance, like the cups are full. They're urns, but cups full of blooming flowers.
We'll take it.
Let's
see what these other reveal.
All right.
So, I don't think this card I pulled from the Osho, because I pulled it earlier. This actually jumped out earlier when we were setting up. It did. It's exhaustion. And it's been a really, really long day. Mm-hmm. And we Indian
both pulled
food
it, because I pulled it
before we did this podcast. And so, interesting. And basically, this card in the Osho deck is really just about when you're doing so much that you deplete your energy to the point of exhaustion. Like
looking at 5 different card decks.
Maybe that might have something to do with it. It's multitasking.
And the Tarot de Saint Croix gave me the World. I love that. This is gorgeous. And it's got a moon and a sun on it, which is interesting. The World is a card of completion, of having reached a state of fullness and completion with a cycle, and having kind of figuratively the world at your feet, so you're feeling fulfilled and completed and ready to take on whatever you need to.
So could you tie that in with energy?
Let's see. So we've got the poet, and here's what's...
Yeah, talk about the poet a little bit.
And I don't use these cards a lot. Light attribute expresses soul insights in symbolic language. And then the shadow attribute turns a lyric gift to negative or destructive effect. So with the archetype cards, Carolyn Mace always gives the light attribute, so the sort of positive side, and then the shadow attribute, the ways it can be manifested less healthily or more dysfunctionally. So yes, I'm thinking expresses soul insights in symbolic language. Yeah, it's like the magic of language, which if you're expressing soul insights, you're coming from your inner being or your subconscious or your soul.
Which is the most authentic place. And that's the language of energy. The language of energy is the most authentic language we speak as humans, because it's us completely stripped down to the law of physics. Kind of like where there really is no poetry at that, but there's poetry in motion, because that's what's going on. It's all flowing, as we talked about earlier.
Right. And you can't lie with your energy.
No. And if you do not have it flowing, it will completely exhaust you. And that sits right in the center of the reading.
Yes.
It's
the
very
exhaustion
interesting.
card right in the center. That's a good point. All right, I'm trying to find this moon dragon. I don't know how this book is
because that's really
set up.
The unknown card right now that we're looking at.
Yes, and so this deck, it's kind of a fun deck that my daughter got when she was young because she loved fairies. So it's nothing I've ever worked with, although that would be interesting at some point. So
and we chose that one because so many people do love fairies. They're interesting.
And the illustrations are really just fabulous.
Sometimes people will choose the decks just because of the beautiful illustrations, if not maybe more so for that reason, because they pull you. The energy of the art will pull you.
Right, yeah, that's a good point.
More so. When I first fell in love with the Osho deck, I didn't even have to think when I saw the images. They just spoke so clearly to me, even beyond words. I could feel them. They resonated energetically. And so when they were all laid out, it was very, very simple to just know what they were trying to say in a story form.
Yeah, so that's a case of the deck chooses you.
It did.
But I love that you say that you just understood it. Like you looked at it and you could already interpret it just at first glance.
It's probably the same energetic exchange as when you're with someone that you both know each other really well and you're speaking about something and you can look at each other and just know exactly what it was you were going to say, or you say it at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Moon Dragon. Keyword emotion. The influence of Mistress Moon. So this is mostly about moon energy and inviting the moon energy in.
Well, it's interesting because we're in the first quarter of this month. So it's waxing. So we better invite it in. Because it's coming in whether we like it or not.
Oh, that's great. Because I was just reading, when the moon has a hold over you, see how quickly you can tame that dragon. Which is, to me, that's similar to what you were saying about, we better be able to, because it's coming.
It's coming.
So we are humans with feelings, hormones, emotions, likes, and dislikes. So it has a lot to do with emotions and the moon, and wish upon a moonbeam today. So it's there for wishes, too. Wishes
and poetry. That's nice.
Yeah. And then the world, as I said, is completion and fullness, and kind of having the world at your feet.
And then we've got the very loud
exhaustion card in the middle.
Exhaustion card in the middle, staring us straight in the face. We're wondering.
I know. So I see all these light and flowery and beautiful and expressive of emotion and poetry and abundance and completion. Right in the middle is exhaustion.
Womp. Trying too hard, maybe. I don't know. But what I was thinking is, instead of us here, the experiment, what we thought was going to be finding commonalities within the decks. Maybe if you're out there listening and any of these cards had something specific that spoke to you when we were talking about what they meant, maybe we're just this is like a mathematical equation. We're reaching 5 times more people.
Yes.
5 different approaches to...
At least one of these cards is speaking to you right now.
And it wouldn't be surprising to me if almost everybody out there is saying, oh, exhaustion, definitely.
Right?
Because it's just a crazy world. So that shows up a lot in everyday life. Maybe being exhausted, a good way to combat that is to keep your energy light, find poetry in daily living,
Express your emotions.
Definitely do that, because if you don't, the energy blocks, and you don't have to express it to anybody else. Just express it to yourself, even. Just to keep the energetic flow going. The emotional flow.
I like that.
And the world, how you want to work that one in?
Know that you are whole and complete as you are today.
We all need that. Let's close the show on that. We hope that this intention for us here with the cards, when we didn't even really know what the intention was, except that we wanted to have some fun and share what happens when you allow your creativity just to take over. Happens that it brings something to you that reflects just what Kat said. Want to repeat that one more time?
What was it? Oh, you are whole and complete within yourself right now.
Just as you are.
Just as you are. Okay.
I like that part.
You are whole and complete just as you are.
And with that being said, I want to thank you from my whole heart for joining me on Energy Amplified.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been really fun.
And you can find Kat on Tarot Talk on greeninkradio.com. Any other last thoughts or sharings or any shout outs to our listeners?
Well, thank you for being here. It's really fun to do this and to feel you out there with us, hopefully laughing with us and not at us, and enjoying everything that energy brings.
Okay, thanks a lot. We'll see you next time on Energy Amplified. Thank you for sharing your energy and time with me. Be sure to check out our blogs and other great shows on greeninkradio.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. This is Energy Amplified. I'm Marlisa McLaughlin on greeninkradio.com. Wishing you hope, health, and joy.